This week on Uncut Gems with Slim.
I don't have the time, space, or energy to continue pouring into something that has reached its expiration date. And that's that on that. Hey y'all, welcome back for the season finale of Uncut Gems with Slim. I'm your host, Jasmine, better known as Slim Shade, and y'all, it has been a journey. I feel like this year came in hot, but now it's starting to slow down a little bit. I don't know if y'all feeling that vibe, but I'm feeling that vibe, and I'm also feeling like a whole bunch of transitions are in the mix, but it is giving me like a second wind of excitement as we push into quarter 2 of 2025. And I've been thinking about all the different things that we discussed during this season, and I wanted to touch on something that I've been learning in 2025 so far, and that's one, to be real with myself. And if I'm being real about life, y'all, the truth is we gonna fall short sometimes. I've been experiencing things where I've been like, dang, like I know I'm falling short. And it's been some seasons where I've been like, and I'm okay with that. And that's the problem. So in life, there's times where we want to live on our terms. Like we don't want to obey. We don't want to do all the Christ-like things. Like we want to do things the way we want to do it. And before we know it, we've drifted further and further away from the vision that God had for us. And I just want to talk about the reality of that and how we can get back on track. And one thing that's so beautiful about falling off track and failing and just not doing things right is the fact that God's grace is still available no matter what you've done. That's crazy, right? And so today I just want to talk about 3 different ways that you can try and realign yourself with God in the path that He has for your life when you know that you're in a backslidden position. And what that basically means is, child, like you done fall off the bandwagon. Like you was doing good, but now you ain't doing too hot. Or you was obeying and now you're not obeying. You was trying to live like Jesus and now you sinning left and right. That's all backslidden means. So we're going to talk about how we can get back on track. And the first thing, y'all, I say this all the time and I realize how important and valuable it is to me, but reevaluate your community. I've said this multiple times. My pastor used to say, change the people you're around or change the people you're around, because eventually you will start to reflect the environment that you're in. Think about all the different ways that the people around you are influencing your walk with God. Are the people around you pushing you towards God or pulling you away? And I will say there are situations in relationships where you can be in the middle. Like you might not be pulling me away from God. You might not be pushing me towards God, but you're kind of just stagnant. And sometimes in those stagnant relationships, it's vital to be aware of when that relationship has reached its expiration. And what I mean by that is sometimes there are friendships that they're good friendships. There's no beef, no falling out. But over time, you may just start to, veer off on different paths. And that is okay. But we have to learn to be honest enough with ourselves about that split that's happening in order to kind of prune those dead ends. Like, it's not like, we beefing, you blocked or anything like that. But it's more so like, I don't have the time, space, or energy to continue pouring into something that has reached its expiration date. And that's that on that. And that's okay. So evaluating your community is a great way to kind of get you back on track when you fall short. Like I said, I have friends and I go to them for different things, right? So I have some friends, when I need accountability, I'll go to them. I have some friends who will give me great spiritual advice. And then I don't really surround myself with too many people who will just like stroke my ego and like kind of butter and sugarcoat stuff with me. I don't surround myself with too many people like that. So you may need to kind of take heed to that and see whether you have people in your circle who is just going to stroke your ego and, hype you up to do things that you aren't supposed to be doing or to do things that aren't in line for the path in which God chose for you to go. It's also a different level of accountability that comes along with relationships where the people are praying for you and they genuinely believe that God has more for you. You will see a difference in those friendships, in the way that they give you advice, in the way that they loosen the leash on you before they tell you the truth about yourself. Like for me, in my almost 30 years of life, it has been so beneficial to have friends and family who encourage my spiritual growth, who pray for me, who, listen to me even when I'm telling them boo-boo, tomatoes, all these ridiculous stories. They allow me to vent, but they don't allow me to stay in a place where I've fallen. Like, if you have fell down or you've stumbled or you have fallen short and you need God's grace in that moment, it's important to surround yourself with people who are going to help pick you up, not people who are going to, come down to where you've fallen at. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, I don't know, if you're an alcoholic, right? And your friends tell you, oh, I ain't drinking no more with the woo. And you're like, okay, cool. But your friends are still drinking around you, knowing that it's something that you're struggling with. So when you do fall and you're like, oh, well, one shot not gonna hurt, you need a friend that's gonna be like, nah, like, we not doing that, versus one that's like, one shot ain't gonna hurt, like, go ahead and do it. Those are the different kind of things I'm thinking about when it comes to community that is leading you in the right direction. In Proverbs 13:20, it says, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. So if you're constantly surrounding yourself by people who normalize sinful behavior, don't be surprised when your convictions start to weaken. And when your convictions start to weaken, that's when you're in the danger zone, because you're just like, oh God, I don't care. Like, what if God said to you he don't care about you? Like, we will be short, okay? We'll be less than short. But you don't want to get to a place where your convictions start to weaken so much that you start making that sin become acceptable and welcoming it in your life. Another thing that's helpful to look at when we're falling short or feel like we're backsliding from our walk with Christ is what you spending your money on. Like, spending your money is a direct reflection of where you are placing value. Matthew 6:21 says, Jesus said, for where our treasure is, there your heart will be also. And so I asked Chatisha to give me a little context to try to make this a little bit more practical for us. And she said, if most of your money is going towards things that don't honor God, like impulse shopping, partying, habits that pull you further from Him, it might be time to assess your priorities. And sometimes it's easy for us to financially prioritize convenience over commitment to God. What does that mean? Okay, if God told you to tighten up on your eating habits, or to clean out, I don't know, your closet, and not be in the gluttonous spirit. Like, if God told you to do these things, sometimes our finances will show us clear as day where we're placing our value. Are we spending all of our money in streaming services, fantasy football, food? Like, what are we spending our money on? If we spending more money on all these other things, and then some people got the nerve to not even spend that 10% in tithes, we got to get our priorities in check. So a practical little challenge for the week that we could do to wrap up the season is take a look at your last 10 transactions. Are they investing in feeding your faith or feeding your flesh? Just take time, look at it. You might not want to look at it, child. Sometimes I don't be wanting to look at my bank account, babe, because that card just be going. And then when I see it, I be like, oh, child. But when you really sit down and look at it and look at where you're investing your money in, you really see what you value. And if it doesn't reflect what you think you value, then it may be time to adjust where you're investing your finances. And last but not least, Donnie Clerkin said it best. We fall down, but we get up. Y'all, nobody is perfect. Remember I said being realistic with ourselves and being honest with ourselves? That's a part of it, y'all. We are not perfect. Like, Adam and Eve ate that apple, and now we living in a world full of sin, okay? None of us are perfect. Once we accept the fact that none of us are perfect, it makes it easier for us to get up. once we realize that, falling short isn't going to feel like such a negative downturn. It's going to turn into more of an opportunity to get back up again. Like anytime you fail, anytime you lose, it gives you a new opportunity to figure out a new way to succeed, a new way to win. But the key is to get back up and keep going. If you don't keep going, if you don't shoot the shot, you're never going to make it. And the enemy wants you to believe that you messed up so much so that you might as well give up. But that's a lie. God's grace is sufficient enough and his mercies are new every morning. So when you fall short or you feel like you're actively backpedaling away from the direction that God is calling you to walk in, like, pause and pray. I know sometimes if you are, new to prayer or whatever, prayer can feel a little bit overwhelming, but praying is literally you just talking to God. And when you feel like you're back against the wall and you just backsliding and you don't know what to do, just tell him. He already know how you feeling. He already know everything that's going on. If you don't have the words, all you gotta do is Jesus. Okay, just call on him. Pray. That's the number one thing I could recommend when you feel like you're backsliding or when you're falling short. Like, pray, ask for his grace and mercy. And when you pray, repent, ask for forgiveness. You fall, you sin, Lord, please forgive me for being a dodo bird and doing what I'm doing right now, especially when you sinning and you like it. Ask God to transform you from the inside out. One of my favorite scriptures is Romans 12:2. It starts off, don't be conformed by the ways of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And renewal is an active process. It literally requires you to surrender daily. And that means choosing obedience even when it's hard. And that is a task. It is an active process. You have to say yes every day. And you also have to repent every day. And the beauty of all of this is that God never called us to walk alone. He is always right there with us. He's Alpha and Omega, which means he's the beginning and the end, which means he's already accounted for all the mistakes we're going to make. And yet he still chose you. The question is, though, when you fall, will you get back up and continue to walk with him and surrender daily? Now, I hope you all enjoyed this season of Uncut Gems with Slim, where we talked about mind games. We talked about all the different things. Make sure you go back and watch previous episodes and stay tuned because we will be dropping some tech content, creator content on our YouTube channel. As always, make sure you're following us on Instagram at Uncut Gems with Slim. And until next season.